Welcome to Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse, a podcast exploring cult classics, subculture, and geek media. I'm Dave.
And I'm Kerry.
And we'll be your tour guides for this deep dive of One Piece. Well, this isn't really a deep dive. This is more like an overview. And you may have noticed the title of the show is Nick and Dave, but we introduced ourselves as Dave and Kerry. Today we have a bit of a shakeup. Nick is out sick, he's malingering or something, and so we're bringing in our very first subject matter enthusiast as the show's co-host. So today we're going to have arguably the very first diver, Kerry, as our enthusiast about One Piece. So fortunately for all of you, she's extremely knowledgeable about this small, obscure anime series that almost nobody's heard of. And she's going to be answering my questions, and she's going to hopefully turn some of you on to this series. So welcome to the show, Kerry. And what can you tell us? Can you give us an elevator pitch for someone that may have never heard of One Piece? They don't even know what I'm talking about.
Sure thing. Well, One Piece is both a manga and an anime, and it's a long-running one, very long-running, almost 2 decades now. It is about a boy and his journey to try and become the king of all the pirates, the Pirate King. So he travels and collects a group of fellow pirates and is setting out to try and find the world's greatest treasure. If you are a person that likes pirates, likes really complicated, deep story arcs, likes great world building and character development, this could be the story for you. It is a very long manga as well, and it took me almost 3 years to get through all of the anime. So there's definitely a lot of content, so if you're out of things to binge watch, this is definitely something I'd recommend.
All right. So yeah, binge watching this is impossible. There's over 1,000 episodes, right? And that's the anime.
Yes.
Not counting any of the myriad of movies and the thousands of issues of manga.
And video games and shorts and everything.
Yeah. So when I said small and obscure, I was being cheeky. This is the biggest anime of all time, right?
It's not actually,
No?
but it is one of the top 10 largest animes of all time.
Holy smokes. What's the biggest one?
I'm not sure. I think it is, there's one that's been going for I think there's 7,000 episodes of it.
Oh, man.
It's one of those popular, only in Japan type shows that's more of a family one.
So it's fairly niche.
Yeah, sorry, divers, I don't remember the name off the top of my head.
We do a lot of tangenting. Yeah, I mean, I've dipped my toe in One Piece. In that, I mean, I've watched about 150 episodes, but for One Piece, that's a start.
Right, you basically were just getting out of the first arc, I think.
Yeah, and that's insane to me. All right, so we're going to just keep things moving right along, and we're going to roll for initiative. So let's go ahead and roll the dice just for the sake of it, and you'll find Nick's D20 somewhere in front of you.
Okay.
But I think I'm going to win. What'd you get?
I got a 10.
Oh, I got a 6. So what's in the news? Just kidding. Since she's a subject matter enthusiast, she's just going to provide commentary on the news stories that I bring up.
All right.
If we were doing video, you guys would see the face she gave me there. So here's the first one. Blade Runner RPG Kickstarter. I talked about this a little bit a couple months ago, but it has officially launched, and it almost immediately shot past its goal, as is expected. It's now over $1.4 million and it's only halfway through. So here's the question. Is it worth dropping 50 bones on this to get this book that's going to be fat because of all the stretch goals and all that stuff, even though I already own Altered Carbon and Cyberpunk Red and Shadowrun?
The only thing I would pick it up for is maybe the setting information and, if they have any modules or, special equipment and that kind of thing. You can totally port it from any one of the number of Cyberpunk systems that are out there. Mm-hmm. But I think, if you want that extra setting material, it may be worth to pick up.
Yeah, it seems cool to play like a replicant or something, I don't know. I'm into these movies, so it makes me think I should own this, but I think it would be a dust collector. Not sure. All right, here's one that you watched with me. Star Trek Strange New Worlds is out on Paramount. It's about Captain Pike, so this is kind of a prequel thing. It's in the past. What do you think? What did you think of it?
Can we do spoilers?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is not a spoiler-free podcast ever. And since there's only really one episode out, there might be two as of the dropping of this episode, but we're only going to comment on the first one. There's not much to spoil.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, there was like basically almost a Spock sex scene in the first episode, and I found that really kind of weird and unusual.
Yeah. Him and his, I guess, fiance at that point.
Yeah. And, I guess they're adding a more modern take to some of the early Star Trek characters. And it's kind of jarring for someone that's been a fan of Star Trek for a really long time, because you're getting some re-envisioning of some of these, core characters that you're attached to. Yeah.
And Spock and whatnot.
I'm so on it right now. I think that I would continue to give it a chance, but the first episode did kind of give me a bit of pause, just because it was different than what we had seen previously, and shed new light on the characters.
It seems like Paramount is really cashing in on this, them having the Star Trek IP, because there's this one, they made that kid show about it, not Upper Decks or Lower Decks, which is an adult cartoon, but they actually made like a kid cartoon about it, which is fine. And then there's the other ongoing series that's not Picard, that is the one where they ran into the alternate universe versions of themselves, where they're all like fascists and stuff. I kind of gave up on that series. It jumped the shark, in my opinion.
I do like Picard, though.
Yeah, Picard's the best of them.
It's not really a Star Trek in that they're not exploring strange new worlds and seeking out new life, but it still, has that feel. And I really liked The Next Generation and all of those characters. So that's been really refreshing to see again. And I did like the Lower Decks show as well, that cartoon you mentioned. Yeah, it's always
funny. Okay, so the last thing I've got, this is just real life news. This is not nerdy news, but it's kind of nerdy because it's all computer based. Bitcoin and the whole crypto market has crashed. Less than half of its previous value. Bitcoin, many of the other smaller coins are down to zero value. They're not even tradable anymore. Big companies, trading warehouses like Coinbase, have said that if they have to go bankrupt, all of the users' coins are gone. There's no FDIC for monopoly money, right? So what do you make of all this?
I'm not really interested in Bitcoin, to be honest with you, or any of the other cyber currencies. I've always found them to be very risky and volatile. I don't think that I would ever want to invest any money in it personally, unless it was really low cost of entry. And I don't think Bitcoin's dropped to a super low amount yet.
No, it's still like hovering around 30K, but it was at like 67 or something at its height.
Right.
So that's pretty insane. All right. So I figured I would bring that up just because, we do subculture stuff and the metaverse, and this is kind of this Bitcoin is been billed as the official currency of the internet, or the metaverse, if you will. So anyway, let's go ahead, and that's enough news. Let's go ahead and get to our podcast fuel. What do you have for us here today, Carrie?
So I went with a sake for us today, since we are discussing a Japanese anime. This is Yoshinagawa. That's a company for divers that you probably don't know that. But Yoshinagawa makes our favorite sake, bar none. So we're a big fan of this company. And they've come out with a sake called Gokujo Genjo. And it's a Genjo, which means that it has over 50% rice polish. But it does likely have some additives to make it more aromatic and a smoother finish, and I think it tastes quite good.
Yeah, so if you divers, if you're not sure what she means when she says rice polish, it means when they take the rice and they basically they process it such that the outer husk of the actual rice grain slowly wears off to where you're only left with the inner sweeter part of the rice grain, and a ginjo is a 50% or more, and then there's even a higher grade, a daiginjo.
Yes.
Which would be, how much is that, like 70 or 80%?
Oh gosh, I'm not quite sure. It is up there. I think it's over 60%, but don't quote me on that, divers. Let's see. And then there's, it's not a junmai, so it does have additives to make it nicer.
Yeah, and junmai would be if it was pure, nothing added. And junmai doesn't mean better, because obviously these master brewers, when they want to add things, it's to improve or a taste. So yeah, what do you think? What do you think of this? I think it's pretty good. How would you rate this in the grand scheme, like on a scale from 1 to 5?
It's not my favorite Yoshinagawa. They actually stopped making my favorite. I was very sad when I went to Sake One. So now we're left with the Winter Warrior and their Golden Gourd sakes. But this one, I would rate it at about a 7 out of 10. It's supposed to taste a little like fennel, which I'm not sure that I'm picking up. But it is very smooth and refreshing and light.
All right. I'm really liking it. It's got a slight sweetness to it, but it's not sweet like in Nigori, and it's got a clean finish with no aftertaste. I really like that. I don't like a sake that leaves something in my mouth after the drink. So this is pretty good. I'd give it somewhere in there 7 or 8. But I'm pretty generous. I really like these smooth, clean ginjos. So let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then we will come back with our intro deep dive into One Piece. Welcome back, divers. Now let's go ahead and jump into the world of One Piece. Go ahead and tell us a little about this, Kerry.
Sure. Well, I discovered One Piece when I had really run out of other animes to watch. I had seen Naruto, and I had seen Bleach, and all the other kind of big ones, Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, all of that. And One Piece was always really daunting because, as you know, it's over 1,000 episodes, and there's 20 distinct arcs, and it's always been hailed as this anime that's, you really have to set aside a lot of time to get into. And I started watching back when it was only like 700 episodes, and it's well past that now.
In its infancy.
Right. So One Piece was authored by Eiichiro, I'm going to mispronounce all of these Japanese names. I apologize, divers. Eiichiro Oda, and I'll call him Oda Sensei. That's what all of the fans do.
That's what the weebs do.
Yep.
They call him Oda Sensei.
So the manga began publication in Shonen Jump, in July 1997. And the anime premiered in October of 1999. 1999 was when I graduated from high school, divers. So it's been quite some time.
Yeah, we're talking about, we're well in past 2 decades, and they're still going strong, right?
Yes, it's still going strong. We have about 100 currently published volumes, which are compendiums. That's what we get in America. You can read the manga online, translated into English, but it's actually published in English in volume content like some of our comics are. One Piece follows Monkey D. Luffy, the main character. He begins the series as a young boy that's always dreamed of becoming the Pirate King and searching for a treasure that's called the One Piece, which is the title of the anime. And One Piece was left behind by the previous Pirate King, Gold D. Roger. And it's thought to be at the very end of the world, basically. And it was left for future pirating generations to discover. So
it's kind of a fantasy world, right, where crazy things happen, and it's kind of almost like a flat Earth scenario. It's not a round globe, right?
So it's hard to tell because Technically, yes, you're right. How it's kind of displayed, it does seem to be flat, but that's a bit of conjecture. I don't know that for a fact.
And Oda Sensei hasn't told us.
Yes,
right?
if you saw something that I haven't, let me know. But basically, the map, when you look at it, it's like 4 grids. It's north, south, east, and west. It's more of a diamond, I guess. And then there's a line going down longitudinally, and there's a line going across. And the latitude line, the equatorial line, really, I guess, is called the Grand Line, and the mountain range that goes longitudinally is called the Red Line.
Yeah, so sorry to interrupt your overview, but yeah, this is not just a boy, like a normal human boy on Earth who wants to be a pirate king. Now, this is like a fantasy world with fantasy geography. It's divided into 4 different oceans in 4 different quadrants of the world, and there's this mythical pirate king, and nobody even really knows what the One Piece is.
No, in fact,
it's like a MacGuffin.
It's still a mystery to viewers now. Even. We have been getting a lot of hints lately as to what the One Piece is, and I'll probably discuss that a little bit later. But yeah, it's still very much up in the air what the One Piece is.
Is it friendship?
No, actually.
If it was friendship, the real treasure.
So fans have been asking about this for years, and Oda Sensei has confirmed that the One Piece is a tangible thing. It's not like the meaning of life or happiness or the journey along the way, that kind of thing. So
I would love it if it was friendship, 1,000 episodes to get to the end, and Luffy just pulls out his hair. All right. Anyway, so you were telling us about how Luffy wanted to become a pirate so he could become the Pirate King and find the One Piece.
So the basically first few episodes focus on Luffy and his life, and he has superpowers, and you basically as a viewer know right away that he's not a normal little kid. He ate a devil fruit, which has given him the power to become a rubber man, and it's called the gum fruit, and basically his entire body stretches and contorts like rubber. Bullets can't hit him, they just bounce off of him.
So we have to define what is a devil fruit, because you just told me that his devil fruit was special and it gave him very specific powers. What is a devil fruit, and how many are there? Like, do they all do different things? Are there duplicates of the same ones? Sure,
those are great questions. So devil fruits are only one of the ways to get a superpower in the One Piece world, but it's probably the most interesting way, because devil fruit powers can run a full gambit of things. So they generally fall into 3 different types of fruits called Logia fruits, which are the rarest type, which kind of give you a power to control a certain type of element like fire or water or ice, or there's a guy that can control meteors, and that's still considered an element. There's the Zoan type fruits, which allow the users to turn into an animal or have animal or beast characteristics. And then there's the Paramecia fruits, which are the most common and can be pretty much anything, like Luffy's fruit turns him into a rubber person.
The gum fruit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So he has it since he's a boy, right?
Yeah. So he was actually friends with a pirate as a boy who ended up being one of the 4 emperors. And again, there's a lot of different titles in this world, and I'm going to try to explain them the best I can a little bit later. But he befriended a pirate that was already well established, and that pirate had gotten a devil fruit, and devil fruits are quite rare. I don't know if I mentioned that, but they're exceedingly rare. They're very hard to find, and people actually go on whole quests trying to find devil fruits. And devil fruits have a weird appearance. They don't look like normal fruits. They kind of look like what they are. So if you were looking at a fire type devil fruit, it would look kind of like flames. So,
this sounds like this would be a dope RPG where you could be like trying to find devil fruits and doing all sorts of stuff.
I'm sure if you looked at Reddit that you could find a system and port it
some
over.
homebrew.
Yeah.
All right. I won't interrupt you with my musings on RPGs.
No, it's fine. So Luffy saw this fruit that Shanks the pirate had in his possession and just picks up and like shoves it in his mouth while Shanks's head is turned. And so
he's just like a random fruit thief.
Yeah, he was hungry. He was like 5, I think, and just like ate it. And they couldn't be mad at the kid because he was just being a kid. And these pirates were good-natured. Not all pirates are good-natured, of course. But they thought it was a big laugh and told him, Shanks told Luffy actually to come find him when he decided to become a pirate. You know, he basically put that thought in his head initially.
And he gave him his hat, right?
Yep, that's right. That's the straw hat, which is why Luffy's pirates are called the Straw Hat Pirates, is because he wears Shanks' straw hat.
Yeah, that he's had since he's a little boy. Right. So, all right. So I think that's a pretty darn good overview to get people started if you're just curious about what's going on. You mentioned you've talked about what is the One Piece. What is One Piece? Did you have more on that?
Yeah, actually, so the One Piece is the treasure that was supposedly left behind the former pirate king Goldie Roger.
And he has the same middle initial as Monkey.
Yeah,
D. Luffy, right?
Yeah. So a lot of the characters in this show have D as an initial in the middle. Their middle initial, so their middle name is D's. But this has something to do with the Will of D, which is a whole other topic. And it actually ties in a little bit to the One Piece because the One Piece, there are these large stone tablets called poneglyphs and a lot of other just mythology related to this period of time called the Void Century. All of these different components actually are, I guess, vestiges of the Void Century, which is a missing century of history in this world. And part of the journey ends up being about how clearly the world government is removing this part of history from the citizens, and they're not allowed to talk about it. No one knows what happened during that century. And the One Piece, many people think, has something to do with this Void Century and maybe the lost history of what happened and why the world government looks the way it is today. And, you know, they may have silenced previous persons like the people with D in the initial. That's thought to be a family initial. So these people could be related to that as well.
All right. So, why are people into this? I mean, I understand people like a lot of things, but this seems ridiculously complex.
It is ridiculously complex. And divers, you can probably tell that I'm trying desperately to summarize some of this stuff. But the fact of the matter is that it's just extremely complicated. And if you are really into a complex world, Oda Sensei has really built that in One Piece. He has Bibles of all of the different islands. This is a water world, so everyone lives on an island pretty much. The different peoples, the different characters, how things are tied together, the whole history of the world. Everything is internally consistent, which is a miracle in shows nowadays. It's just, there are things that were seeded in the first arc that are coming into play now in the 20th arc. And I think...
How long is an arc, generally speaking?
100 to 200 episodes-ish.
Okay.
All right. I guess, chapters-ish. I would say it's about 100 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, I mean, this guy Luffy, I'm going to tell the divers where I kind of got on and left off. He's kind of a funny-ish, loudmouth, kind of precocious guy who fights. He's a pirate, but it seems like it takes him, I don't know, 100 episodes where it's all of him gathering his crew, traveling from place to place, and it's uncovering all sorts of world details and information, but it's all about him gathering up his friends and getting a crew and becoming becoming a pirate and all of that. And so they spend episode after episode deep diving a character, just one character, where the other ones are just sort of like background or participants. They do side plots galore, just exploring the specific characters, which I think is interesting, if a little indulgent in the storytelling.
Well, I think that everyone's background in this show is very important, and it comes into play much later in the series. I think we got through only 6 of the members of the Straw Hat crew while you were watching. I think Chopper was the last Straw Hat.
No, I think we got to the shark guy.
The shark guy?
Yeah, the fish dude. Yeah, I don't even remember. It's been a long time.
No,
there were a lot of dudes.
So there is a fisherman pirate that joins the crew, but he's the last joiner.
So that couldn't have been right.
Right.
All right. So did you have any other points for the under the topic of why do people like One Piece?
Oh, sorry. So I think people like it just because it's relatable. So the Straw Hat crew, there's literally, I think, someone that you can relate to out of each one of those characters. I think
so. And we're going to go through the characters later, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to deep dive this, guys.
Not really. It's impossible. But each member of the crew is unique, and not all of them are overpowered. You could say Luffy is overpowered physically, but I think
the cats are here, divers, if you were wondering.
I think Luffy is not always the most knowledgeable and intelligent member of the crew. He's, the happy-go-lucky leader, though he suffers great losses throughout this series. And, seeing a happy-go-lucky character like break down and bawl over the loss of his friends, because Oda Sensei kills characters, divers. So don't get too attached to anyone.
Except Luffy.
Well, yeah. Luffy, he is the star, but who knows? We don't know what will happen. But so I think on the surface, it seems very happy-go-lucky and lighthearted, but the story is actually quite deep. So it can be quite surprising when, some really serious things happen and, people die, like I said. And, I think in a way, Oda Sensei wrote a very political piece. A lot of it reflects kind of human politics and human nature, and you see that in these characters too. There's massive corruption. There's people fighting corruption. There's people taking advantage of corruption to do crime, and everything under the sun.
Yeah, and another political aspect of this on the meta is that Oda wrote a story that's extremely multicultural. Like the cast of One Piece are not just Japanese people. It's extremely diverse. Right.
So it is a fictional world. So there's not, you can't say, oh, this person's Japanese, this person's,
true.
Swedish or whatever. But Oda Sensei actually has, multiculturalism in mind. Sorry, divers. He sees Luffy as a Hispanic person, for example. And Rono Zoro, the first mate, arguably, he's Japanese. But Nami, another character, is Swedish, whereas Nico Robin is Russian. And then Usopp is African. And then Frankie is supposedly the American. So, yeah.
And Chopper is a reindeer.
Yes.
He's literally a sentient animal.
He is a reindeer, yes.
I love the Chopper arc. All right. So I'm glad that you said that he will straight up George Martin a character, because I think that really lends gravity to anime. One thing that really strikes me about this series is that even though it's very silly and ridiculous at times, the pendulum swings far. It gets dark and it also gets silly. It never goes like mega dark, but it does go mega silly sometimes.
I don't know. I think it gets pretty dark, and there's a lot of, internal conflict as well. Like Luffy's grandfather is, he's a member of the Navy, the World Government Navy, and he's an officer. Luffy's a pirate. Luffy's father is a general in the Revolutionary Army. All of those roles are at odds somewhat. So it causes familial conflict, and friends have to choose between their allegiances and their friendships. In many cases, I think every arc, someone is either betraying their oath or, making a difficult decision to stay the course and betray their friends.
For sure. So I mentioned it before, and we mentioned it before, and I asked you this before we started recording. Is this the biggest anime? Not the most episodes, but as far as popularity and distribution and fame, is this the biggest one?
So for shonens, and those are animes or mangas meant for young men, I would say One Piece is probably the top anime and manga. It's really complex. It's well loved, especially in Japan. And I think it has a fairly wide presence across the world as well. The United States, however, doesn't consider One Piece a top anime or manga.
It seems like things like Dragon Ball and what's that one about the nerdy ninja kids? Naruto. Excuse me. Yeah, all
Attack
of
on
those
Titan
seem way bigger
Dragon
in America.
Slayer, yeah. Or
Why?
Demon Slayer, not Dragon Slayer.
Why are those bigger?
Talking.
Why is Naruto bigger than One Piece here?
So one of the huge issues with our version of One Piece was actually that there's smoking in it. And they had to edit that out of the original version, and they made it more kid-friendly than it was intended to be for the English dubbing. And then they edited out all of the smoking with lollipops and candy and stuff.
Oh, so it just kind of came off as a little weak or something. I don't know. I don't like smoking, but having all these adult characters with lollipops seems pretty weird.
Yeah, they made it more into a kids show than an adult show. And not that it's meant for adults, it's meant for young adults really, but it made it more kid-friendly, and I think that took away from the message that Oda Sensei is trying to craft in, this work. It's really has, a lot of adult themes to it. And, we didn't interpret that when we did our American English version.
And when you say that, you're talking about the 4Kids version versus the Funimation version?
Right. So we do now have some better versions, but this, as you mentioned, has been out for so long that a lot of people at this point, find it very daunting to try to pick up and watch. Mm-hmm. So we kind of initially didn't do a very good job at, dubbing and bringing this property over to the English American version. And then when we, worked, when we had Crunchyroll and Funimation accessible to us, it was already so large that a lot of people just didn't take it up to begin with. Yeah.
So were any of the One Piece video games any good? Did you play them?
I've played some of the fighting games. They're not, obviously the fighting games don't have story. I've heard the RPG style games are good, but I haven't played any of them personally.
All right, we'll have to get on that, give it a shot. So we're gonna jump. We talked about the meta plot. The big picture is to find the One Piece and be the Pirate King, etc. And we're gonna get back to plot in a little bit, where we're gonna just do a brief overview of the major arcs. But let's actually take a little time and talk about the characters in this show, because I think the characters provide some of the bulk of the content. There's so many character arc stories, and And these characters are really interesting. So we talked a bit about Monkey D. Luffy, the main character. Do you have anything else that you think divers need to know about Monkey in order to, or he's often just called Luffy.
Yeah, Luffy is his actual first name.
Yeah.
I mean, it's backwards in Japanese, right? Monkey is his family name, and then
I'm sure we meet some more monkey people later.
Yes, Monkey D. Garp, Monkey D. Dragon. I'll talk about them too, divers. So Luffy is the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates. We've already kind of gone over that. But I will say that his overall personality is very lighthearted and just happy-go-lucky, and he's just overwhelmingly optimistic and positive, but he will buckle down if there's a serious danger, and he doesn't shy away from defending his friends when, a problem arises.
Yeah, he's basically a Gryffindor.
And then his first mate.
You just go right past
I think he's
that.
actually a Hufflepuff.
Oh, you think
I don't
so?
know. He's
Okay.
a little. He's kind of a little goofy, lighthearted, happy,
so the
friendly
divers don't
dude.
really know you. You what house are you?
I don't support J.K. Rowling.
Oh, okay, so let's go. What color is your lightsaber? We should have done this at the very beginning.
It's probably red, honestly.
Okay, yeah, mine's totally red. And what kind of Aes Sedai are you?
I'm a brown Aja.
And explain to the nerds what a brown Aja is.
I'm a nerd. I like books and reading and learning.
Yeah, they're the librarian.
That should
Aes Sedai.
That should answer the house question as well from Harry Potter.
Yeah, pretty much. We were discussing whether while we're on a tangent, because I like to tangent, we were discussing whether we were going to bring Kerry on as a subject matter enthusiast for One Piece, or as our resident weeb, or for Wheel of Time, because she's also the resident Wheel of Time nerd. She watches all the YouTube shows like Wad Up and all the other ones. So maybe when season 2 comes out, we can give that a shot. But she's not a yapper like me and Nick. So we'll let her have a little rest after this. So okay, after Monkey D. Luffy, who's next?
So I consider Rono Azoro the first mate, though he's more of a sword expert. He uses the Santoro 3-sword style, where he wields a sword in each hand, and then he also wields a sword in his mouth, and he is a master of this style. And it is, at first it's really comical, but as the show goes on, it's really pretty badass. He's actually my favorite character. He's pretty stoic, and he's kind of grumpy and like sleeping and getting drunk, and I just really love it.
Yeah, so this guy Zoro, when I first started watching the show, he seems like kind of a samurai-ish dude. And at first I was like, oh, okay, he's wielding multiple swords. And then he pulls out a sword and he grips it in his teeth, like sidewise. So he has a sword blade sticking out one side of his mouth, basically. And he does all these crazy combos that really hinge on having that third sword. And at first I was like, oh my God, this is dumb, because, I like swords. And this is not realistic. But after a while, it grew on me. And I was just like, okay, Zoro is awesome. This fighting style is obviously fantastical. But one thing I like, he doesn't have a devil fruit or anything like that.
No, you didn't get to what his superpower is. It's called Haki. And Haki is a shared power that many characters have, including Luffy. Luffy also knows Haki, but it's a lot like Ki, I guess, is how I would term it. It's like an internal power that you can radiate throughout your body to give your skin, hardening and more defensive capability. And then you can also use it for punching, and you can even use it with your mind to subjugate others.
Yeah, basically hockey is like, I'm so badass, I made myself super.
Yeah, it's like I willed myself into being powerful. But
it's like Jedi. I'm just so badass. All right, so after Zoro, and you're doing these in the order that they join the crew, basically?
That's right, yeah.
Because there's a whole plot arc for each one as they join the crew. Who was after Zoro?
So after Zoro, they meet Nami, and she joins the crew. And Nami's a girl who's an expert navigator. She can also predict and now control the weather. She gains that ability. And she normally keeps the log pose, which is like the special magical compass in this world. And the log pose will always lead you to the next piece of land, so the next island. It'll point to the next island without fail, except that it fails all the time.
Yeah, because people are always getting lost in this world because it's a water world and there's a lot of chaos, crazy stuff going down. So having a log pose, something that's going to always point you towards land, that's useful.
Yeah, so basically, divers, the 4 quadrant seas, North Sea, South Sea, East Sea, Blue Sea, they're like normal oceans, but the Grand Line is the equatorial ocean is a special waterway that's surrounded by calm belts. So you can't just navigate in there. You have to get through to the Grand Line through a special means. And only a log pose can help you navigate the Grand Line. You can't do it with just regular navigation.
Yeah, so I mean, spoiler alert, they make it into the Grand Line.
Yes.
You know.
That's where the One Piece is.
And so the next one is Usopp, right?
Yes, Usopp. So Usopp is a character that I would say suffers from lack of self-confidence. He always is underestimating his abilities and thinks that he is the most worthless member of the Straw Hat Pirates. He just is really down on himself and, struggles with his, own worth. He actually is a legacy pirate. His father was a pirate, and he is known for being a sharpshooter, and he uses kind of a slingshot staff as his weapon.
Yeah, I didn't particularly love this this plot arc with this guy, but I do think the character definitely redeems himself quite a lot. He always comes through when it matters the most. He's kind of a sad sack, but he delivers when he needs to.
He has a good heart, but yeah, he definitely suffers from a lack of self-confidence.
And so after Usopp comes one of my favorites.
Yeah, they meet Sanji. He's working at a sea restaurant. It's basically like a barge. He becomes the ship's cook, and we much later learn that he's actually a royal. He's a prince and a member of one of the ruling families, but he was cast out.
And he's also like a badass at Kung Fu.
Yeah, he is a hockey user as well, and he only fights with his feet because he believes his hands are sacred because they're for cooking. So he only uses his hands for cooking and nonviolent purposes. So when he fights, it's only with kicks and his feet, really.
Yeah, and his story where he you learn about how he learned to be a cook from his essentially chef sensei. That's a sad story. And It's really good.
And then you figure out how he was on the island to begin with because his parents basically kicked him out.
Yeah. It's crazy. And so what about after that guy joins the crew?
So the next member of the Straw Hat crew is Tony Chopper. And Chopper, like you said earlier, is a reindeer who ate a devil fruit called the human fruit, which basically allows him to be kind of a combination of both a reindeer and a human. So he can walk around on 2 legs. And usually he's kind of a tiny chibi character, but he can turn into a reindeer or
and
a
like
monster.
A big burly version.
Right. So he has a lot of different transformative powers. So he can be anything from a monster to a reindeer to a human or all of them. And he is trained as a doctor, and he's also a bit of a scientist. He makes items called rumble balls that give him additional powers as well. He's very much a coward. He does not like to fight, but once he, gets convinced to fight, he's actually really powerful.
Yeah, and I like how Chopper's kind of a token. He's like a really smart character. I like how they have, fairly intelligent people in here as complex and interesting characters. They're not just dingus like Luffy.
Yeah, I think he's one of the smartest characters on the crew.
So after that, they meet up with Nico Robin.
Yes, Robin actually encountered the Straw Hats first as an enemy. I think you saw the Alabasta arc.
Yeah.
So she worked for basically one of the warlords of the sea, which are Navy-sponsored pirates.
So there's warlords and there's emperors.
Right.
And there's admirals.
Right. So a warlord is a Navy-sanctioned pirate, so they work for the government.
And they're really powerful.
Right, but they still do pirate stuff. So this one happened to take over an island and is basically ruling it instead of the ruling family because he was badass. And Nico worked for him, and she eventually left them and traveled with them a ways. And then it was discovered that the government is actually looking for her to arrest her and possibly execute her because she is the last person in this world that can read poneglyphs, which were those tablets I mentioned earlier that unlock the secrets that the government has tried to hide about this void century.
Okay, so and does she do hockey or is she a devil fruiter?
She is a devil fruit user. She ate the flower fruit, and
so do they all have a name like
yes,
that?
They do. Yes, they do.
Okay.
So the flower fruit allows her to bloom limbs out of her body, so she can make multiple arms, multiple hands, and it's really creative. She can make a whole net with all of her limbs, and
can she fly or make herself into a parachute?
Yes, she can. Yep.
So yeah, any of these fruit powers, they get really gonzo with it.
It's way more creative than you can possibly imagine. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, like Luffy's gum fruit, it's insane what he does. He'll blow himself up like a balloon and fly away or bounce or whatever. It's just all sorts of things.
Divers, I forgot to mention the irony about being a devil fruit user is that you can't swim. So once you eat a devil fruit, you just sink to the bottom of the ocean. So it's very dangerous, actually.
It's basically just it's a thing that has a powerful ability, but also a gnarly curse.
Right. Some pirates avoid devil fruits because they don't want to risk drowning.
So is devil fruit user, is that more powerful than hockey, or ideally you want to be both?
Both is great, but it really depends. So just because you've eaten a devil fruit or trained your hockey doesn't mean you're extremely good at it. So there are different levels to devil fruit use. You can unlock different levels of powers that your devil fruit has, and not everyone is able to do that. Okay.
I mean, that makes sense. You start off,
Sure.
You're new to it. You're not super awesome with your powers. All right. So after Nico Robin, you meet Frankie, right?
Yes. So Frankie is actually a shipwright. They meet him at the Water 7 Island in the Grand Line, and he actually constructs the second Straw Hat cruise ship called the Thousand Sunny. The original ship is called the Going Merry, and unfortunately it does not make it. It crashes and becomes unrepairable, and they have to send it off in a sea burial, basically.
Yeah, rip Going Merry.
It's actually really sad because,
everyone's really attached to that ship at that point.
And we later learn in part of the series that ships actually develop almost a life force. They have,
their own hockey.
They have an energy, a spirit, I guess. They have a spirit, and so they almost feel, the letting go of their ship. So anyway, so Frankie,
he's the cyborg guy, right?
Yeah, so he is really great at fixing and rebuilding things, and he was dealt some very serious injuries during this arc, and he had to rebuild his body, basically. And it's now almost entirely mechanical, and he's basically a cyborg.
And this is the American in the crew, right?
Yeah. He's really funny and very loud. I guess Japanese people perceive Americans as really talkative and loud and boisterous, and he's definitely all of those things.
All right, so I think that's actually where I left off.
Oh, okay.
with the crew. So who is after Frankie?
So they eventually meet Brooke. Brooke is a skeleton.
Oh, no, he's the rock and roll guy.
Yeah,
I remember him.
So he's a skeleton, and he has a really tragic backstory too. He is a musician. He actually plays the guitar and the violin, so things that we can both do.
Yeah.
And he tours briefly as a rock and roll person called the Soul King, and there's like posters of him, and you can buy them, and it's great. But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he also is a devil fruit user. He ate the revive fruit, and
okay.
He and all of his crew were killed or died. I guess they died, and he came back to life because he ate that fruit. But he's now a dead skeleton, and he gets to live his life like that.
So what happens if he dies again?
He's just a skeleton.
He just comes back.
Yeah, he basically can be a ghost and float around and do all sorts of things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he's just a total undead guy.
I'm sure if you like melted or like destroyed all of his bones,
crush him.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And then there's one more guy?
Yeah. So Jimbei is the fisherman pirate. And you might have met Jimbei. I don't know if you saw the Impel Down Marine Ford arc, but Luffy basically rescues this guy from prison. They become friends. And then Jimbei basically says, peace out. I've got to take care of some business before I can travel with you. And it turns out that he's actually a subordinate of one of the emperors of the sea named Big Mom, and she's a mega powerful pirate, and it is not easy to get away from her. Eventually, he manages to. He almost dies in the process, but he does join up with Luffy and the gang, and he uses haki, and he also has special fisherman karate. There's a whole karate style that's for fishermen only, and he's a master.
Anthropomorphic fish dudes have their own martial art, and it's very badass.
Yeah, and they have an underwater island that they all live on.
And so that's pretty much all the crew, right?
Right.
I mean, and each one of these characters has their own deep backstory. There's no NPCs on this crew,
right?
Basically,
and a lot of them are multi-part backstories. All of these characters are main characters, and
like Sanji has a couple of arcs.
Yeah, and I would say that there are arcs fully that exclude some of the characters. Like, there's an arc where they get separated, and you're only seeing half of the crew, and then there's a whole arc with the other half of the crew and what they've done. And yeah, you get really attached to all of the characters because they all are very unique and essential members of the crew. But this is definitely a property that suffers from just a bazillion characters. There's like a million bazillion.
Well, it's like Wheel of Time.
It's worse.
But you like that stuff.
I do. It makes the world feel really, alive to me. And I mentioned some other characters briefly, like Monkey D. Garp is a vice admiral in the Navy who works for the world government.
And how's he related to Luffy?
He's Luffy's grandfather.
Okay.
He raises Luffy instead of his father, Monkey D. Dragon, because he basically left Monkey D. Garp and went and became the head of the Revolutionary Army, which is the army that's fighting against the world government's tyranny. If you haven't already figured it out, the world government is not really good at all, and they're very corrupt, and they're hiding things from the people for their own gain, and they basically, are untouchable by normal people. So that's kind of the relationship there. Yeah, I mean, it's not too far off. And then Luffy has two sworn brothers. They're not his biological brothers, but he grew up with them. Portuguese D. Ace is actually Gold D. Rogers' son.
But I'm sure we don't learn that until like a million
much later, yeah. But he grew up.
But actually, I'm the Pirate King's son.
Right. He's older than Luffy. Luffy's like the baby brother that tags along, and Ace was always the really cool guy brother. And then there's also Sabo, who is from a noble family and gives it up because he realizes that his parents are being terrible to the citizens and treating them poorly. And he actually goes off and joins the Revolutionary Army. We actually think he's dead for quite some time because he looks like he got murdered and he comes back. So that was,
it's an anime with
Yeah.
a revive fruit.
Well,
I'm sure they can figure out a way that
not everyone comes back, but he did. But
Okay.
so he's now with Luffy's dad and doing Revolutionary Army stuff. And he, I won't get into it. There's a whole tragic occurrence with all of them. And yeah, it's heavy stuff.
All right. So you've mentioned the admirals, the warlords, and the world government, and the emperors.
Right.
Are there any other major groups?
Those are the really big ones.
And there's the nobles, right?
So but
they're not major like
the Navy
that.
works for the world government, and the
Okay.
nobles are the world government.
All
So
right.
the rulership.
So
of
the
world.
Navy and the warlords work for the government, right? And then the emperors are just big gnarly pirates who
Yeah.
are their own thing.
The emperors are the 4 scariest, meanest, greatest pirates out there.
One
And
for each sea, right?
no, actually, they live in the Grand Line, but the second half of the Grand Line, which has its own name, it's called the New World, and they rule over that sea. It's the deadliest, craziest sea that, just being there, you can die. But they are really powerful. And
Who are the 4 emperors?
so
Because I'm way more interested in pirates than in government dudes.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Shanks, who I discussed at the very beginning of this whole talk, is one of them.
Straw Hat and Devil Fruit donor.
Yes, he donated Luffy's devil fruit and gave him the straw hat. He also
Does he have his own Devil Fruit? Or was he going to eat the gum gum?
he did not. He does not have a devil fruit yet because he actually swam and saved Luffy from a giant fish.
Okay. Gotcha.
So he is a hockey user, and he is really nice. He actually secretly helps Luffy from time to time, but he doesn't let Luffy know about it because he wants Luffy to get powerful on his own merit and meet him, and basically travel together and accomplish things.
What would happen if a Devil Fruit user ate a second Devil Fruit?
You can't.
Just nothing happens.
I
You
think
just
something
can't?
bad happens. I don't recall. I know you can't
It's
eat
just not a thing.
There is a way. Only one person's managed to do it.
Goldie Roger?
No, actually, it's a pirate called Blackbeard who kills, after Whitebeard dies, spoilers, who was one of the emperors, Blackbeard takes his place. And Blackbeard somehow has 2 devil fruit powers. And there are some, I don't know how he managed to do that. That's not been revealed yet that I'm aware of. But I think it may be he has, there's a whole arc that I'll talk about in the arc section where we learn that fake devil fruits are being manufactured. And it may be,
snap. Do they give a power?
yes. So, but they have side effects.
Okay, so they're like a shoddy goods version
Yes,
of
a
a
shoddy
devil.
goods. That is a great way of terming it. So he may have a nice shoddy goods fake devil fruit, and they've somehow managed technology. Yeah, I'm not sure yet, but
That's pretty
he
cool.
has to.
So we got Shanks, we got Blackbeard, Rip Whitebeard.
Yeah.
And we have Big Mom, who you talked about before,
Right.
who is a corpulently fat
Yes.
lady who has like a food island, and her sons are all food related things.
Oh, you've seen me watch that arc,
I
guess.
remember watching the Big Mom arc in the
Okay.
food island.
Yeah, the whole cake island.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, so Big Mom is really powerful, and she actually can get skinny if she starves, but she just eats constantly because that's her favorite thing. And her pirates, one of them has, I don't believe that it's her, has the ability to turn or put souls into inanimate objects like food and things.
Oh, yeah.
And so you'll remember like the
yeah,
singing cupcakes.
Yeah, the
and
cupcakes
lollipops,
are like screaming.
and then people eat them and they're eating people. Yeah, it's really messed up. So
it's dark.
And then the last emperor is called Kaido, and he is basically ate a devil fruit that allows him to transform into a dragon. So,
okay.
Yeah, so he has a zoan fruit, and there's special zoan fruits that let you turn into not just animals, but like mythological animals. So like dragon, unicorn, phoenix, that kind of thing.
Ooh, a phoenix fruit?
Yeah, there's a phoenix fruit. One of the Whitebeard pirates had it.
That's dope. So if someone with a fruit dies, like the fruit's gone forever, right? Is there only one of each kind, or?
No, actually the fruit isn't gone forever. It's actually a strategy that some people come up with to try and get a fruit, is to kill a devil fruit user, because supposedly the devil fruit appears on the closest fruit to the dead person.
On the closest piece of random fruit becomes a devil fruit.
Right.
So they carry...
I think it has to be on a tree or like on a plant.
Okay.
That...
So you carry around a little lemon tree in a pot.
But yeah, no, that's... I think that's how that works. Yeah, because there are people that definitely... people have died and their fruits have reappeared. And one of the arcs actually is Luffy trying to get someone he cares about devil fruit back, because he died and he didn't want to lose the devil fruit, because that's kind of his last memory of that person.
Okay, so we've talked about all these main characters. There's a billion characters. I don't want to like try to deep dive all 20 arcs, but maybe we could just talk about them in broad terms. That way, you know, when someone's going through this, because every diver's inevitably going to become a One Piece fan, they're like, oh yeah, that arc sounded cool.
I don't know if I've convinced anyone. It's long, complex, but I think it's really rewarding if you jump into it. So
it's a never-ending binge, right?
Oh, yeah.
You never have that disappointment at the end of something that you wish there was more.
No, I mean, literally, it's still going, and yeah.
All right. So let's kind of speed through these.
Sure. So the show and manga start out in East Blue, which is one of the seas, and
it's like a tame, regular,
right. So
sea.
it's a calm sea where many people live, and a lot of people, their identities are, where they were born, and it's always in one of the, East Blue, West Blue type seas usually, because that's where the majority of the people live.
And do people ever travel from one to the other?
It's extremely rare, because they would have to use the Grand Line to do that.
So basically, if you're a regular person, if you're born in East Blue, you live your whole life in East Blue and then you die.
That's right. And the same with the normal people that are born in the Grand Line. They live there because they can't really navigate through that to get somewhere else.
Okay. And so Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and Sanji are all from East Blue?
Yes. So they all get... Well, Sanji is a special case, but that's where
Luffy meets him.
Luffy meets all of them. And then they basically cross over to the Grand Line, which they go up a giant waterfall over the Red Line, which is that big mountain range I briefly talked about.
Yeah, they sail up a waterfall into a mountain range.
Yes, and Nami has to expertly navigate them through this crazy waterfall. They go through this basically harrowing tunnel and get dumped into the Grand Line on the other side.
Yeah. And there's like a whale. And
yeah.
It's crazy.
And the whale is another fun character.
It's a whole side plot.
Yeah, the whale is still alive too. Anyway, the whale follows... you hear more about the whale later. It has its own backstory.
Of course it does.
Divers, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Oda
There's a
Sensei.
special pet whale. Anyway, they meet one of Goldie Rogers' crew there at the Red Line when they cross over, and they learn a little bit about what to expect going forward. And that character actually comes back as well and trains Luffy much later, but he's a really powerful dude. And then they go to Winter Island, and do heroics there, meet Chopper. It's at like a snow island, and it's being run by evil people, and the gang basically saves the day and convinces Chopper to go with them as their doctor. And then they go to Alabasta, which we talked about. That's where they met Nico Robin and Crocodile, who was the warlord of the sea that was ruling over that country. And then Princess Vivi is the true rightful ruling princess. She has a father who's still alive, but she was the character they usually interacted with, and her family should have ruled. And eventually they set everything right, and Crocodile is defeated, and
we meet Ace, his brother.
Yes, Ace is there as well, and he helps briefly and then goes off and does his stuff because he's a member of the Whitebeard Pirates and is on missions for them.
Each pirate crew has like a little jolly crew nickname or whatever, and Luffy's group are the Straw Hat Pirates.
And in this arc, we also learn about Vivi cards, which are pieces of paper that are like, they're kind of like both an ID card, but they're also, if you tear off a little piece of it and give it to someone, it's like a magnet, like you'll be pointed towards wherever that person is. So if you need to find them, their card will basically move in the direction towards that person.
All right. Interesting.
Then they go to basically Skypiea next, which is a sky island that's ruled over by this god. I actually initially skipped this arc when I watched it the first time because the reviews I read said that it wasn't really important to the core of the story. I did go back and watch it, and there are a few things that you could pick up, but you could skip this arc if you really wanted to. Divers, there are websites that kind of walk you through what episodes to watch and what episodes are filler as well. And I would recommend if you...
Oh, yeah. There are some episodes that is all one fight. It's a fight that began in the previous episode and finishes in the next episode.
Well, those aren't filler, though. That's just how animes were back then.
You can skip a whole episode and it doesn't affect anything because it's a fighting episode.
Well, I don't know. Some of the fights are cool.
Some of them are cool, but
if you're into fighting,
if you're trying to follow the plot.
Yeah, that's true. But there's also filler episodes. So sometimes the anime had to pause. Sometimes Oda wasn't writing. So, and they are, basically summarizing multiple chapters each episode. So they got to the end basically sometimes and had to create new stuff, and we call that filler. And so it points out all the filler episodes. So if you want to skip all non-canon episodes, you can do that as well. And there are a lot of them, but it's not going to significantly reduce the amount of episodes you're going to have to watch.
It's not even 10%. So
anyways, the next big arc is Water 7, which is the island that Frankie was on. Basically, Robin leaves at this point because she realizes that the government is chasing her, and it gets to be kind of this thing where Usopp leaves as well, and he goes off on his own and becomes a hero called the Soja King, and basically becomes really famous that way and has a wanted poster of that guy instead of a wanted poster in his Usopp pirate persona. So eventually they solve kind of the issues going on Water 7. They take Frankie with them after, healing him up a little bit. And then they go to Enos Lobby to try and rescue Nico Robin, who's been arrested. And Usopp joins them to help try and free her. And then they try to escape from their captors and eventually do. Then there's the Thriller Bark arc, which I like to call the Adventurous Goth arc. We meet the warlord Gecko Moria, who is kind of a ghoulish sort of dude. There's vampires and ghouls and...
See, I didn't see this. I think I would have liked it.
Undead, and he has a goth lady that hangs out, and there's this really cool kind of vampire warlord that we meet early on that's a super dope swords master. He visits sometimes because he's kind of a vampire-ish dude.
See, the guy that wears that big crucifix.
Yeah.
And who's super kicks Luffy's ass like in a big way.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember that guy.
So basically, if you're a fan of like vampires and goth elements, this arc is all of that. And it's basically just a self-contained adventure. We learn a little bit about Wano, which is a country much further down the Grand Line during this time, because Zoro acquires a really special, cool sword from this ghost. But yeah, it's mostly just kind of a self-contained vampire goth darkness arc.
That's cool.
Then after the Straw Hat Pirates leave there, they actually go to Impel Down because Luffy finds out... I should back up. So when they leave, they go to another island. They encounter a very powerful warlord named Kuma. Kuma punts, like can kick so hard that he kicks Luffy to a different island where he meets Boa Hancock, who is Luffy's love interest, I guess, but it's like totally one-sided. She's in love with him. She's a powerful warlord pirate, and she lives on an island of all women, and all of her pirates are women. Then after that, he learns his brother Ace has been captured by the world government and is being held captive in prison. And so he goes to try to rescue them. And then he successfully breaks out of Impel Down with Jinbei and Ace and some other people. I think we didn't even talk about Becky the pirate, the clown pirate.
That's okay.
Okay. Well, anyway, they break out.
There's too many side characters.
Yeah, they break out. And then like a huge fight happens at Marineford. And a lot of people...
It's like a super gigantic battle.
Yeah.
I remember seeing parts of that.
Admirals are fighting pirates, Navy. Like there's a huge battle and people die in this battle. Major characters die in this battle. And after that, there's a 2-year time skip because Luffy is really struggling with confidence during this time because he lost someone extremely important to him. And he basically spends 2 years on an island training.
Having a montage.
Yeah. So, and all the Straw Hat pirates have 2 years to train on their own, and they all go on their various ways and do training. And it's really not certain if they're all going to come back together or not. They make a pledge to do so. But, as a viewer at the time, I was like, are they going to all come back?
Is this the end of the show?
Yeah.
Or is it like, are they just going to get rid of some of the characters?
Yeah. I wasn't really sure where it was going to go from there. And then they do all come back together. And we're introduced kind of to a concept called the next generation of pirates, where we kind of see who Luffy's competition is in his generation to be the next pirate king. Because we already have these emperors, right, that are kind of from Goldie Roger's generation who are trying to become pirate king. But there's also all these new young bloods that are trying to do it as well.
Sure. So every pirate's goal is to become the pirate king.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Because everyone wants that massive treasure.
The One Piece that nobody can tell you what it is.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So Luffy finally gets to Fishman Island, which, like I said, is underwater, and develops close ties to the fishermen people, learns a lot of stuff about the world in general, and learns that this island is ruled over by Big Mom, one of the emperors of the sea. Then they go to Punk Hazard, which is where we meet fan favorite Trafalgar D. Law and his Heart Pirate crew. Law is like the edgelord cutie pie of all of the pirates.
He kind of has like a 90s style.
Yeah, he's edgy and cool and, has a lot of tattoos. And he's just a cool dude. And
he probably listened to Jamiroquai and 311.
I don't think so, but
Just based on his dress, the way he dresses.
but he's a fan favorite. He's usually voted number one of all of the characters on One Piece. Like there's popularity contests in Shonen Jump Divers, and they rate all of the characters by popularity, and he's often either number one or number two.
I like Zoro number one.
Zoro, Law, and Sanji are usually the top three.
Sanji is also, it's hard to say. I really like Sanji.
So,
but Luffy doesn't get top billing?
no, not usually. Yeah.
Interesting.
Because Luffy is kind of like a one-note, happy-go-lucky sort of person.
Yeah, he's too goofy.
Well, he's meant to be always like super optimistic, whereas the other characters have like some internal conflict, you know?
All right.
So that's kind of where Law and Luffy kind of meet up and form a truce, because pirates usually don't get along with each other, but they've decided to work together because they have discovered that on this island is where those fake devil fruits are being made.
Nice.
And they determined that it's this dude called Doflamingo that is responsible for this, and there are like children being tested on, and like it's really dark.
I mean, Luffy had one when he was 5.
Well, yeah, but like these aren't
these
regular
are
devil fruits. These are
gonna...
defective, and they have kids eat them and see if they live or develop side effects and that kind of thing. So it's pretty dark. And then, so that obviously pisses them off. And so they go to Dressrosa, which is the next arc, which is where Doflamingo is kind of the ruler now of, kind of similar to Crocodile. He's shoved over the actual ruling family and is ruling it as a warlord instead. And, it's, the people are kind of being oppressed a lot. And then
just kind of.
Yeah. And,
Sorry, divers, we got a cat in distress. Come here, kitty. Okay, that was enough to get her to stop.
So a member of Doflamingo's warlord pirate crew is actually someone that can turn people into like toys. And so once a person has been turned into a toy, their family forgets who they are, but the toy remembers everything about who they are and their family. But they can't convince, if I turned into a toy, I couldn't convince you, my husband, that I'm actually your husband. And, these are actually my cats. I'm just this fun, toy person that's meant to bring joy. And so it's really dark because there's this whole segment of the population that looks like they're fun, happy-go-lucky toys, but they're really very sad, depressed people who have been turned to toys, and they realize that their only joy is getting to even spend time with their families because they don't recognize them as people anymore.
It sounds like darkness.
Yeah, it's pretty dark. And eventually Luffy does defeat Doflamingo, and I would say that this is one of the longest arcs, and it is very difficult to do. And we learned that Doflamingo is actually one of Kaido's subordinates secretly.
Ooh, so he's the dragon guy.
Yeah, so he's double-crossed the world government and is actually working with one of the emperors.
Oh, man. And so then they go to Whole Cake Island because that's where Big Mom is?
No, so they go to Zhao next.
Oh, man. So it's basically like a series of island hopping.
Yeah, but Zhao is actually a giant elephant. It's not an island. But anyway, that's where the mink tribe lives. And one of the poneglyphs turns out to be there. So it's good that they went there. And
Nami can read those?
No, Nico Robin is the
Robin,
one.
Gotcha. See, it's confusing.
So we learn at Zhao that the mink tribe is allied with Wano, which is a country that's being overrun by Kaido and the Beast Pirates. And so that's kind of the tie-in there. So some of the mink tribe, who are beast people themselves, decide to go with Luffy to try to take care of Kaido. But before that happens, Sanji actually gets abducted by his real family, the Vinsmokes, who are a ruling house that has a mobile fortress island and is like military tech family, basically.
Yeah, they're pretty badass. I remember this arc because I really like Sanji. You were watching it and I wasn't paying attention, but I started paying attention more with this one.
Right.
Yeah, pretty cool when they're trying to go and get Sanji back.
Yeah, so Sanji gets basically sold to Big Mom's family as someone that has an arranged marriage. They're selling him off as like marriage fodder because he's not really a member of the family, but they've made some sort of agreement with the Big Mom pirates to where if they marry in, they have an alliance. And so they're basically abducting Sanji to discard him for this purpose. And so that's how Sanji gets to Whole Cake Island and why Luffy goes there to begin with. And honestly, it doesn't go real well for the Straw Hat Gang.
I remember the Whole Cake Island arc was so long.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously long. All the fights, like there's like a Waffle Man fight. It's like 6 episodes.
It's a Biscuit Man.
Okay, Biscuit Man, my bad. He can multiply himself into biscuits.
Yeah, but he's weak when he gets wet like a biscuit. Anyway,
yes.
It is a long arc, and Big Mom is really powerful, and they do not defeat Big Mom. They end up having to run away from her, but they do get Sanji back, so that's good. And then...
It's good. They can't always win. It gets lame if they always win.
Then we get to Wano, who is being ruled over by Kaido. Law and Luffy have made an agreement to try to take out Kaido because he's doing some seriously terrible things, and they're on the same page about that. And that's kind of where it is currently, is them trying to figure out a way to deal with Kaido.
Jeez, that is a lot of content you just breezed through in, I don't know, 30 minutes, 20 minutes.
I didn't even discuss any of the core,
none of the nuance
plots and subplots of each of those arcs, Divers. I just kind of talked to you about the Straw Hat crew and what they did, but it actually goes into what's happening in each of those island countries. You know, there are rulers of each of these countries. There are characters on each of these islands. There are bad guys, good guys, and different people. You know, it's just everything is very complex and, you know, well developed.
So how many more arcs are there going to be?
So I'm not sure how many more arcs, but we are in the last phase of this
so this
manga.
Is the time to catch up.
Yeah, so you
can experience the end with the rest of the weeb world.
Right. So fans such as myself, we've generally guesstimated that it'll probably go another 2 to 3 years. But
it would take you about that long to get current.
Yes.
I mean, 1,000 episodes, if you did one a day, it's 3 years, right? It's less than 3 years. But they're not that long. You could do 2 or 3 a day.
Yeah, they're about, I would say, 25 minutes each.
Yeah. And this is on, and you can stream this on
Funimation and Crunchyroll.
So you have to subscribe pretty much. There's no way to like get this on the cheap, but Crunchyroll is pretty cheap, right?
I haven't tried to buy it on Amazon, but it could be like one of those things you could purchase there too.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so how does someone approach this? This is the golden question. How do you do this? If someone's listening to this podcast and they're in this long, how do they start?
Well, you've already heard me just recommending diving into this, but if
start with episode 1 and
if that seems really daunting, I would, you know, there are some things I would definitely avoid. So I wouldn't watch the English dub of this at all. I'm not sure if they've improved it a lot, but the last time I watched it wasn't that great. The movies are also all non-canon, so that's not going to help you. So
they put all the toys back in the box.
Right. So unless you're just a fan of watching anime movies, I would skip all the movies. But what I've mentioned about approaching the series, looking at the websites to avoid filler, you know, maybe skipping the Skypiea arc at first. Those are some options to make it more approachable. But also, I think, you could read some summaries too if you wanted to.
There are YouTube videos where people talk, they summarize, they'll spend like 20, 30 minutes and they'll summarize a whole arc and save you 100 episodes.
Yeah, I don't think that's the worst idea ever. You won't have maybe the same connection to the characters as if you had watched the whole thing, but that is a way.
I don't really like that because I like Chopper a lot because I watched his episode. I like Sanji a lot, not episode, his arc. I like Sanji a lot because I watched his arcs. I think the idea of Googling and finding some resources that tell you these are the essential canon episodes, skipping all the filler. So essentially you have a watch list. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty critical.
So I guess how I would approach it, if I were to even try to recommend this to someone, is reading it might be a lot faster. So obviously the manga is out there. You can get it, at several places. Can you
get it like digital on a subscription? So you can just read it at your own pace?
I believe you can get it digitally on Amazon. There are also... It's on pretty much every manga site. So if you have like a monthly subscription to a manga site, you can access it there. But you're going to be able to read it much faster than watching it. I caught up with the manga after watching all the episodes and getting caught up with those. And I got current pretty fast. I want to say it took me like 6 months to read all of it.
Yeah, but you're kind of a reading fiend.
Right. So if you're a reading fiend, that might be an option. The other thing that is happening is they are creating a live action version of One Piece, similar to the Cowboy Bebop treatment.
Oh, no.
Well, I don't know. Oda Sensei has signed on to the Netflix live action version.
Hopefully they don't bebop it.
Well, I didn't really watch a ton of Cowboy Bebop. Honestly, Diver's live action anime is not really my preferred format to watch things in because a lot of things just don't transfer over very well and it can look really cheesy. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give this live action version a shot just because I know that Oda has been involved in it. And I know, at least from what the casting looks like, it looks like they're being true to Oda's vision of it. So they cast a Hispanic actor for Luffy, they cast a black actor for Usopp, they cast an Asian actor for Zoro, that kind of thing. So That's seeming promising so far.
All right. So normally at this point in the show, we would do what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and we give it a rating. We're not going to rate this because this was an overview on-ramp episode. But what I want to do is I want to use the final thoughts segment for you to give your final sales pitch. Why should a diver get into One Piece?
If you want an adventure fantasy story set in a universe that has a bunch of pirates, some ninjas, and a lot of anime tropes, as well as a world that has very deep characters, extensive world building, lots of hierarchical structure, just overall complex, and will make you feel real emotions, both happy, sad, anger, all of that. I think that you're not going to find a better property, really.
All right. That's a pretty glowing recommendation there. And if I were to give a more cynical recommendation, I would say this is a fun and in-depth series. A lot of filler is in there. If you can find a good pacing guide online, do it. This is good anime. So maybe you should give it a shot. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and then we're going to come back with our closing segment.
Welcome back, divers. This is the point in the podcast where I ask David what he's into right now.
Well, I have been doing a couple of things, going to some events. You happen to have gone to them as well. But So I don't have like a property or something for this stream. I'm just going to talk about some fun stuff. I went to a random one-shot D&D game at a local brew pub. It was called Dungeons and Flagons. It came with beer and a D&D style meal, and we played D&D with random nerds. I had some trepidation about playing with random nerds because there's all those neckbeard stereotypes, but these were some nice people.
They really were. We had gone for a friend's birthday, and they actually ended up, her and her fiance ended up being put in a different group.
A different table, because there was like 6 D&D groups going on.
But I was really surprised. Everyone was very nice. You know, I felt that everyone at the table had airtime as far as speaking and, you know, really getting to play their characters. And the module that the DM ran was fun and engaging.
Yeah, it was a good time. So if you are considering doing one of those kind of public D&D things where you're just playing with random people, give it a shot. You're going to have fun with it. And then the other thing is we went and saw Henry Rollins on his spoken word tour, the first one he's done since everything shut down from COVID. This was because Nick is out on the injured reserve, or he's sick. So we stood in for him and took one for the team and saw Rollins perform. And that man is 2.5 hours of energy, 2.5 hours of intensity. And I loved every minute of it.
It was my first time seeing him live, and I was honestly shocked that there was no intermission. He can just really talk and stay animated for that whole time. And, you know, it was really engaging.
There's no glass of water, nothing.
I don't think I could do that. I was tired just watching him.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. So if divers, if you are, if you're interested in seeing Rollins, get tickets when he comes to your town. But also, there's a ton of his spoken word stuff that's recorded out there that you can listen to. He does a radio show. There's a lot of Rollins content out there. I highly recommend checking it out. It was a good time. So how about you, Carrie? What are you into right now?
So I just have one thing, and as Dave pointed out, I'm kind of a weeb, and I read a lot of manga, but I've recently run out of manga that I really enjoy reading. I know
she literally read all the mangas.
Well, so I like this particular genre called isekai, which is basically when the character gets transported to a world that isn't their own world, like either in a game or reincarnation or, you know, something like that.
So that's a genre?
Yeah, it's a whole genre of manga. And I recently discovered that there's a Korean version of manga called manhwas. And
you mean Japanese people don't have the monopoly on funny books?
No, in fact, Americans make comics too. I'm a big comic fan as well, but I hadn't really delved into any of the manhwas. I've always kind of been a little snobby and turned up my nose at, because it is very
down on Korea.
No, I mean, sorry, Korean divers out there. I apologize. I've since really come around on manhwas in general because I have read, I think, over 50 now, and they've just been
50 like whole series.
Yes. And so I found them to be very engaging, and you've actually watched a few animes that are based on manhwas as well. Tower of God and God of High School were both Korean.
I really like God of High School. That was a good one. I mean, I like Tower of God too. I can't wait till that starts up again.
Yeah, Tower of God is definitely one of my favorites, but
God of High School it's like a fighting game.
It is a fighting.
It's so good. It's like a
one.
tournament.
Yeah.
All right. So that's very cool. So this is where we do our call to action. Subscribe to us on your favorite podcatcher, as well as YouTube, Spotify, and Audible. Don't forget to leave us a review. A 5-star review costs you nothing, but means everything to us. You can find us on all social media platforms across the metaverse as Deep Dive the Meta. I like Twitter. Nick likes Instagram, but we're also on Pinterest, which nobody likes. Well, I guess this is really goodbye.
Don't say goodbye. Say something. What does Nick say?
Say good journey.